Well, hello everyone. We hope that the first viewers are now tuning in for this live part of the session. So welcome if you've just watched I think it was our very first YouTube video premiere. So it's great to have done that. That was the first time we did that. Very exciting experience. And we hope you're all finding us well on this other space on YouTube now. Thanks for all the great chat comments that you've sent throughout the roughly 45 minutes of this video that we've just watched. And we'll let you know that the four of us have been gathered here in this Zoom room already since 7 o'clock. And we've also rewatched the video. Of course, we've recorded it and we've also edited it. And it was now, it was interesting to watch it again along with all of you, which is why the premieres are so much fun. So as we've said, we've been collecting all your questions. We'll get to those in just a minute. We just wanted to give you a little bit more time to find this live stream. And it looks like roughly 80 of you have already found us. That's great. Again, welcome here. And before we dive right in, I wanted to briefly introduce or reintroduce our panel for tonight. Of course, with me, as usual, is my wonderful co-founder, Josh Goldsmith, who joins us from Geneva. How are you, Josh?
Good. How about yourself, Alex? It's a great day. Great to see everybody here. So many excellent questions, and I'm looking forward to diving into this live Q&A with everybody.
Same here. And I know you spent all day in a remote context today. I suppose a lot of colleagues had a similar experience. So props for spending even more time online tonight or
this
today.
Is the fun stuff.
This is the fun stuff, exactly. And we also want to welcome our two guests, which you have seen during the video, of course. First of all, welcome to Martin Esposito and welcome to Michele Ferrari. Wonderful to have you with us tonight once again.
Thank you.
And thank you for being game for this little project of ours. We're very excited, actually, to see such a great response from you. So many people signed up for today's session. So many people are joining us live. So I think it's a good time to dive right in. Josh, what do you think? I think we have collected quite a few questions and comments from the chat room. First
Absolutely.
of all, yeah, did anything jump out at you, Josh? What should we get to first?
Where to start? There were so many excellent questions.
First of all, I did want to give a shout out to Oleg, who dragged his entire simultaneous class to today's session. Thanks for that. Welcome to all of you. Maybe we start with Oleg's question right away. It's a very practical question to both of you, Michele and Martin. What about the sound quality in the recordings during simultaneous consecutive? Was that ever an issue, or did you find the sound quality to be okay most of the time? I don't know if we can start with Martin, maybe.
Yes. Hello, everyone. The smart pen in question had a superior 3D sound quality. The reason was that the microphones were housed inside the earbuds, but on the other side. So in contact with the ears was the mini loudspeaker, and outwards, exactly where the human ear would concentrate the sound waves, were two microphones. So it was stereophonic with a surround effect. It was an excellent quality.
Sounds great.
Yeah, in my case, well, when I first used this at the conference in Rome, the sound quality was absolutely atrocious, but somehow I managed anyway. And the Smart Pen, as Martin just said, had an absolutely wonderful sound quality. So no problem at all there, really.
And it's interesting because nowadays we certainly have wireless microphones that could be used for this kind of purpose if the speaker agrees to it, obviously. So there are Bluetooth enabled microphones that potentially could be used for this, but that's not, we're not going to go into that much detail tonight. I wanted to pass on a comment from Maria, who was asking about a presentation in New York for translators and interpreters, and she was wondering whether either of you were doing that. So a presentation on simultaneous consecutive. No. Okay.
Not in New York, no.
Mixed up with somebody else.
I was born in New York, but other than that.
I see. Okay, but you probably didn't give a presentation at that early age, I don't imagine. Okay. So another question came here from Ulla, which we want to get to straight away. Did you listen to the recording while speaking? Yes, right? I mean, effectively, that's exactly where the combination or the hybrid comes in between simultaneous and consecutive. So you would effectively do a simultaneous.
Yeah,
Josh, do you want to take the next question?
Yeah, I wanted to follow up on that because there were a few people who asked about sort of the time it took between the end of the recording and hitting the play button, and whether any of your clients, your listeners found that to be a bit jarring. How did that work? How does that work?
Instantaneous, right, Martin?
So there are no buttons really. The beauty of the Smart Pen is that it activates on contact with the ink stroke on the paper. So all you need to do is go to the first ink stroke of the first word on the first page of that section of interpreting, and it starts playing back. There is no play button. There is a stop button if you need to stop before the end, but that's the beauty of it.
Yeah, there's no time lag at all.
Awesome. And you've both been talking about the pen. I don't think either one of you has any experience doing this with apps on a tablet, right?
Not me, just my two pens that unfortunately have died in the meantime.
I have a little experience with an app called Audio Note. By then, though, I was less interested in this technique, and I think screens lend themselves to other kinds of techniques which are completely different and possibly may form the object of another investigation on the part of our two hosts, so I won't go into them here.
Well, I'm sure some of the people watching already know what we've done on using a tablet for consecutive. We've covered it in a few webinars, which are in our webinars library, so you can head over there, and it's also covered in more detail in some of our courses. But we're working on something special about Sim-Consec using the tools that are available now, and we will be coming back to this topic because we can tell people are pretty excited about it.
Just a quick follow-up question for Martin, if I may. People were asking whether the Smart Pen is still available, and I think in the same vein, could it still be used for Sim-Consec?
This enables me to bring forward one of my main messages here. The pen is still available, I think, on the usual online platforms, but the model you would use for Sim-Consec is now obsolete. It is no longer being produced. It is now a tool which synchronizes with your smartphone, and you get it in products like smart diaries, etc. So you write on paper and then you see what happens on your computer screen. It's a very different device now. It still works well for teaching. The message is that every so often in the history of a profession, a climactic moment comes about. This was a climactic moment, and I made it my business to speak to the producers, hoping all 200 of you who are listening today would in some way create that critical mass. The answer was, well, we don't see this large group of users, so we're going to take it into a different direction, which is that of teaching and learning, university students, smart diaries, and that's the way it went. These moments come around again and again. We now have remote simultaneous interpreting, the conception of us as professionals exposed on a marketplace, and so on. And it's the ability to network and get together that gives answers to these challenges of the time. So let's not get lost on this one.
Yeah, just one thing. The new model of the Smart Pen has actually lost the all-important variable playback function, which is what allowed you to speed up or slow down the speech. Just wanted to point that out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point.
I think the good news on that, however, is that there now are other tools out there, apps, for example, that do allow for that. We still have more research to do to find out exactly which ones work best, but we'll be coming back to you with more on this
Stay tuned.
soon. Stay tuned, exactly. So just one quick follow-up. Manuela asked exactly which model of the pen were you using?
Well, in my case, I had two. The Pulse, which was the first one, and then the Echo, which was the more recent one. Not the most recent one, but that's the one I used most, actually. And it was a great device because, you know, it's all in one. You know, you can even write, take your notes with this and just pull it out and do your consec, or Sim-Consec, should I say. But yeah, it's, as Martin said, it was a bit of a sad story that it just had to die like that, you know.
Any model, if I may add, after the Echo Smart Pen is not appropriate for this technique. You will need a second device. You'll need your phone next to you.
Okay. because it leverages the technology in the phone, I think, right?
Yes,
the
playback
microphone,
is
for
from the
example.
phone, and the
Yeah, right,
microphone
okay.
is on the phone,
Right.
and so you're
Mhm.
getting a wireless
Right.
connection in that sense. So you're working with two devices.
Yeah.
At that
And
point, you might.
whereas this was an all-in-one device with
Mhm.
the further advantage of the fact that it had an SD card, which meant that you could simply remove the SD card after having done your Sim-Consec or simultaneous consecutive and just hand it to the client. So no privacy issues at all.
Mhm.
But that's gone.
Yeah. I think there were a few questions around the practicalities of using the pen in particular, or maybe also the headphones that would be required for this. So maybe we start with that. Was that ever an issue? I mean, you having to wear headphones, was that an issue for the audience? Did anybody mind you using that technique? Or, I mean, did you have any sort of contact with the speaker as well to prepare them for what was coming up? Sort of the practical things, maybe you can speak to that just a little bit.
Perhaps I'll take this one, Michele. No, no preparation was necessary. All you're doing is holding your notepad and a pen. And yes, there is a wire going into your ears, but that's what interpreters have coming in and going out of their ears all the time anyway. The only difference between then and now are the privacy considerations. If you cast your mind back, the code of conduct of an interpreter has always been not to disclose notes or recordings or any information they might remember from a meeting. And that was enough at the time. At the time, we didn't used to ask permission to take pictures of the kids at our birthday parties. Explicit consent, which is, as I said in the video, and as I say again now, a good thing, is a very recent phenomenon. At the time, a workaround was envisaged in the courts. I saw some questions about the courts, and the solution would have been, though I never got that far myself, simply get the courts to purchase the device and to manage it, to use it, to wipe it, to keep it there once the interpreting session is over.
Great. And one other question that came up was whether you asked the delegates, the people you were working for, to change what they were saying in any way. I mean, did you give them a briefing? Did you say, keep your speech to short segments, longer segments, anything like that?
I say this semi-seriously, but whatever I tell my clients, whenever I tell them to slow down, they won't. Whenever I tell them to break up, they don't. So for once in my life, I didn't have to. No, because on a more serious note, any differences would be perceived as blamable on the device. So as far as I'm concerned, I was just doing my job. And it's the usual eye contact where the tension grows and you ask them to please stop. Having said that, my longest stretch was 9 minutes with the Smart Pen. So it had 8 GB memory. Work it out for yourselves.
Yeah, in
Battery
my
life
limited
sorry,
experience,
yeah,
I didn't have any issues on that front.
Great. I was wondering whether battery life was ever an issue, but it doesn't sound like that was
No.
the case, as long as you didn't forget to charge it beforehand, of course.
Absolutely. The charger worked actually while you were using it, and it was a separate port. It was a micro USB. The other one was a 3.5 mil jack. So if you had a little battery pack in your pocket, you could charge it. It got a bit messy, but at a pinch, you could have charged it on the spot.
So you could have used the iSuit with all the channels to manage the cables for that. Just to pick up
I would have
some...
worn one if I had one.
Yes. We'll put that into the documentation. I found a nice image online. But just following on that, the question was put, which device is best, which is probably difficult to give a straight answer to. And both of you said that the more recent generations of the pen are actually not very good for Sim-Consec. I think it kind of depends. I suppose Josh and I would maybe lean towards doing that on an iPad with an app like Notability, for example, or on a tablet in general. But I don't know if I mean, Michele, you've certainly tried various devices for this technique. Did you have any preference, or did you just take whatever was handy?
My preference really will always be, even though it's not available anymore, is the Smart Pen, just because of the fact that it's compact, all in one. You just pull it out, put the headphones in, and do your Sim-Consec. I mean, you don't have to play around with so many things. You know what I mean? You can write with it as well. So it's just an all-in-one device that I don't think anything can replace, really. Okay, a tablet will. I'm actually be very curious to see how you do it with a tablet. I'm looking forward to seeing this, but it just had that extra versatility, sort of the practicality, which was remarkable.
Yes, I think that the spirit here today is really we're telling a story rather than recommending active use of a device. It's that period is over now, but it was interesting because it brought us to where we are today.
That's a great comment. So thank you for that. There was a question here about Esther Navarro Hall, our dear late colleague, whether she was the one who created Sim-Consec. I don't know if you can comment on that quickly to clear up the history part of that, basically.
Esther and I met on Twitter about 10 years ago, and she was a very good friend. And of course, we send thoughts her way, wherever she may be. I always call it a case of polygenesis. We found out we were doing roughly the same thing at the same time. She happened to be in Madrid for some teaching sessions, and I jumped on a plane, went to Madrid, and we had wonderful 2 days talking and sharing experiences. And we agreed that it was a miracle that this was coming about in different parts of the world at the same time. Her patented method called Sim-Consec. So Sim-Consec is, as far as I know, under that copyright, also included a degree, an element of teaching the technique and of teaching interpreting in general, which was, of course, her thing, which is not, I believe, part of Michele's experience, and certainly not part of mine, though.
Go ahead, Josh. Yes.
I was going to say, we're trying to keep up with all of the questions that are coming in right now live as we're doing the second round on YouTube. So, and there are some really interesting comments in there as well about how folks are doing this. So I'd encourage people to read those after this. I'm not going to read them all out right now, but it is cool to see that Eric, for example, has experience doing this with Notability, iPad, and Apple Pencil, and says it works really well. And that's also what we've been testing and having a good experience with. So I'm going to try to turn to one question. Who is teaching Sim-Consec right now? Any ideas?
I don't know, quite frankly.
Sim-Consec as such is part of literature, shall we say. Once it's echoed in dissertations, and I believe a couple are from Trieste, which here in Europe means a lot to us. It belongs to history as such. It cannot be taught because the device is no longer available in that form. So it's simply the history of how we got to tablet teaching. Now, it will take some time before tablet interpreting teaching filters down to the academic institutions. So I suppose the answer is we're doing it right here on this channel today.
Yeah.
I love that. And we will keep doing it right here. We always try to really push the boundaries and touch on the most cutting edge stuff in tech for language professionals here at Tech Forward. And we're glad that you two came along to help us continue to push those boundaries here. So I guess a question that came in from Kate is, do we know if this or similar techniques are being used more widely by other colleagues in other settings? If I may, I'd like to take at least part of that question to say that at least one somewhat similar technique, obviously not hybrid, not Sim-Consec, but using a device to help you out with your work is what Alex and I have been talking about for years, which is using a tablet for interpreting. And we've seen more and more colleagues starting to use their tablets for interpreting. So that is really exciting. And I think maybe we'll have to put something together on Sim-Consec, and maybe more and more colleagues will start doing it then as well.
Yeah, that will be fun.
That'd be great.
but I just spilled the beans a little bit. We're working on something. That's all I'm going to say for now. Okay, so we'll have a last look maybe for questions. I saw a comment from Claudio who says that Sim-Consec training is provided at UNINT, so University of Rome. So that might also be a good point of contact if you want to know more about that. And I think with that, unless there are any sort of last minute questions, I think somebody was asking about any alternative smart pens. I don't know, Michele or Martin, if you've been following the developments, is there anything that you can recommend in terms of hardware?
I'm not aware of anything new on that front.
There is a Korean company. They create the Neo Smart Pen. There are no substantial differences, so it all really boils down to cost and the availability of paper. You need special paper for this. So there's a lot around, but given the changes which we've reiterated more than once, it's much of a muchness as far as we are concerned.
Yeah, so maybe the tablet plus an app is the way to go then.
Definitely the contemporary way to do Sim-Consec, yes.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be something that we will keep an eye on. And one last question, which I'll admit to Martin. What model of headset are you using? That's a little off topic, but your voice is so crisp and clear. So let's tell Eric what kind of headset you're using, and then we'll wrap things up here.
Oh, I'll have to take it off then.
Okay. That was a very specific question, but we're here for the tech. So
MAI-RDI. I enjoy buying the cheapest thing I can find with the right specifications and making it work without a manual. So I look a bit odd with this thing on my head. I think I'm the, oh no, Josh's got one. But if it makes a difference, well, thank you for noting that.
The sound is apparently much appreciated.
Wonderful.
Even though mine are not visible, I'm just wanted to point out I'm using bone conduction headphones, which I've used for at least 3 years, the last 3 years of my interpreting career, given that I'm now retired. And they're great.
That's maybe something we should also revisit very soon, but I think we're working on another thing where that'll be part of what we'll be dealing with. So that's a very good reminder.
We have a lot of projects that we're juggling.
Too much, probably.
Oh, yeah, but it's fun. It keeps us having a great time. So before we wrap up, I wanted to take this moment, as we traditionally do at the end of our webinars, first of all, to thank everybody for joining us. It's a real pleasure. We've done over 20 webinars, believe it or not, in this series. Wow. And we're constantly touching on different things tied to interpreting technology and technology for language professionals. If you're here for the first time, thanks for joining us. And feel free to check out our webinar library and all of the free courses that we have available for folks. I'm going to put the link to share some feedback with us right in YouTube right now. So you can do that. And I also wanted to encourage anybody who liked what you saw to consider a donation. We suggest a €10 donation for these free webinars, if you can, which helps us to continue our research and support the infrastructure that goes into Tech Forward. And now I wanted to say what comes next. We already have our next webinar scheduled. And for our next webinar, get your diaries right now, mark it down. It's going to be February 11th at the same time. And we'll be talking about Nebo, which we already did one webinar on. But Nebo is our favorite app for handwriting recognition. And they've got a brand new version that's just come out that also covers PDF import, export, all of the stuff that they didn't have last time we spoke about it. So we wanted to come back to it. So we look forward to seeing you then. But that's not it. Some of you may already know, we are working on a mega event, which will be from February 23rd to 25th. It's called the Innovation in Interpreting Summit, and there are going to be over 25 experts on interpreting technology joining us for 3 packed days, presentations, live panels, co-working, networking, a live tech problem-solving session, you name it. And also, for those of you interested in Sim-Consec, there will also be a session on Sim-Consec there. Mark Orlando, who is, I would say, the world's preeminent researcher on Sim-Consec, will be joining us to talk about how to use Sim-Consec for teaching purposes, teaching and training purposes. So you definitely don't want to miss that. Hop on the webinar, hop on the waiting list. Too many words that start with W.
As long as you're hopping,
we
will
let you know as soon as registration goes live. We're looking to be able to open the doors in just about 10 days. So tons of exciting stuff coming up. Maybe I'll turn...
Yep.
Yeah, Alex, over to you.
Sorry to interrupt you. I just wanted to say if you are joining us for the first time because you're so interested in Sim-Consec, it's probably a good idea to sign up to our mailing list because we have more stuff on Sim-Consec coming, as Josh just said, at the summit, for example. And yeah, I didn't want to cut you off, Josh, but I think we've probably taken a lot of time out of people's busy days and certainly have taken a lot of time from our dear guests, Michele and Martin. So we will release you. Thanks once again for joining us for the recording and also for this live session today. I think people are really appreciating it. So are we. And we'd love to stay in touch and,
sure.
Keep alive the flame of Sim-Consec to be just a little bit corny.
My social handles will be published.
Absolutely. You want to say it right now? I just was going to say.
No, they'll be published on your website afterwards.
Yes. So we're giving you permission, as it were, to stay in touch. And if you have any additional questions, make sure to send them our way or directly to Martin or Michele, or we'll hand it on. Whatever is easier for you. So once again, thanks so much for joining us. And I think that's it, Josh, right, for tonight?
That's it for now. What a great session. Thank you again, Martin. Thank you, Michele. A real pleasure. And thank you to everyone who is here. And with that, we'll sign off and see you soon.
See you soon. Bye-bye.